One of the biggest, if not the biggest, weekly patch Hexaria has ever seen just dropped. And there's a lot to unpack. Multiple changes to early game enemies, the return of Randomizer PvP, some assorted card balancing, and a whopping 7 new cards in players' hands. And yes, we're going over all of them in this video. Additionally, Arrow Peaks has had its drop rates reverted, and now Brokelight Lake has boosted drop rates. So if you're going for Gold and Silver Blade, make this week count. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. First off, Randomizer returns to the Coliseum, and it's back with a quote-unquote shocking twist. Not only will players have a randomized deck when PvPing for the time being, but passive bit shock will plague the match as well, creating a chaotic format for players to try out in Hexaria, as combatants will take life loss damage at the end of their turn equal to the amount of bits they have times 5. Give it a shot, I'm sure you'll like it. Next up, this week's weekly patch has 2 enemy rebalances which are focused on resolving overtuned early game content. First off, Bandit Trapper. The fact that an enemy which players will fight more or less right from the get-go has a card that applies both stun and confusion was certainly a questionable design choice for the Canvas update. Players at this point don't really have a good confusion removal unless they pull Purge super early, and definitely don't have a good stun removal, because that is literally just Rally. Now, Heavy Chuck has been removed from their decks. While they still have Tripwire and every once in a while Rock Smash to disrupt players, it's not as oppressive as Heavy Chuck, so I see this as a huge win for early game. Bandit Alchemist has been quite the controversial enemy, doing everything all at once with its various set of potions, not just sporting a bit gain, but even an AoE stun. This is an early game enemy, by the way. On top of all of its concoction cards being adjusted to make fighting against this enemy more manageable, its deck has been changed to just be Hastening Concoction and Potion Satchel. The second card we'll go over later in the video. Instead of being immediately threatening, Bandit Alchemist now needs to spend at least 2 turns in order to use both a Hastening Concoction to gain bits, and Potion Satchel to gain concoction cards. This has made Bandit Alchemist much more reasonable for early game, allowing players to prepare before the onslaught of potions, and most importantly, not get heavily crippled by said onslaught of potions. I like this change. I hope you have a lot of corrosive concoctions on standby, because a new NPC Trader has arrived in the Den of Thieves raid who wants all of them. Near the King of Thieves fight, you'll notice this Bandit Alchemist with a shop icon. Yeah, that's the NPC Trader. All of the ultra rare concoction cards, we'll go over the new ones later in the video, are purchasable here for 1 corrosive concoction each. I thought I'd also note in this section that Rejuvenating Concoction has been removed from Bandit Alchemist drops and is now obtained here. This week, there's been 3 balancing changes that have happened. Yes, I know that some of the new cards released in this update were previous unobs that were also rebalanced. We'll get to it. Don't worry. Anyways, let's get into the card changes in this weekly patch. Corrosive Concoction's base damage has been increased from 12 to 15. I'm not joking, that's literally everything the card got. Certainly one of the most balanced changes of all time. In comparison, Rejuvenating Concoction got, well, let's just say a whole lot more than a stat increase of 3. Its healing has been increased from 12 to 18, its attack buff application has been removed, and in its place, a 15% Revitalize lasting for 5 turns has been added. Instead of being an uninspiring AoE heal card that doesn't really stand out in a metagame filled with AoE heal cards, it now has a niche in applying Revitalize and an AoE. AoE Revitalize could be a game changer in support decks, as it can make a subsequent AoE heal like Bishop's Benevolence output much more than it would have. Haunted Jab's biggest issue with its design was the scenario of it killing an enemy, and because of that, not going back into your hand. Because of this, you had to be more careful than you really needed to be when using Haunted Jab. Fortunately, in this weekly patch, that's not a problem anymore. Haunted Jab directly goes back into your hand now on a kill, or if the target was a boss, non-humanoid, or already had a Haunted Jab in their hand. The catch is that if the card is put back in your hand because of hitting a boss, non-humanoid, or target that has a Haunted Jab in their hand, the caster will have a 2-turn cooldown before being able to use Haunted Jab again. Getting a kill with Haunted Jab does not give the caster this 2-turn cooldown. This makes the card much more reliable to use in certain areas with non-humanoids, to an extent. but most importantly, killing an enemy with Haunted Jab, something you should be doing if you're using this card a lot, no longer ruins the gimmick of this card. I was recently considering making a video on Haunted Jab because I honestly think it's a fun card worth covering. However, due to its recent buff making it a little more relevant, let me know if you want a Haunted Jab analysis video. Overall, I think it's definitely worth trying out this card again. If you're at this point in the video, I just want to say thanks for watching. If you like what you're seeing, feel free to leave a like on the video so more people can see it. If you want to know when more stuff drops, feel free to subscribe. Lastly, the biggest amount of new content ever dropped in a single weekly patch, 7 new cards now obtainable by players, including a handful of previously unobtainable potion cards, which means I can make this. Anyways, back to the analysis. Cambris has always been at a lack of good AoE options, both for offense and support. That's no longer the case with every Bandit Alchemist card previously obtainable becoming obtainable with this weekly patch. And we're going over all of them and their changes in this section. There's also 2 other cards dropped in this weekly patch that we'll be covering. Don't worry, I think you'll find them interesting too. The first card we're going over is actually a new early game bit gain, so it's automatically a thumbs up for me. Besides Shadow Trade, there really weren't any bit gains in Cambris, making all the new cards dropped in the Cambris update that cost 3 or more bits basically useless for new players. Of course, that's no longer the case with an obtainable Hastening Concoction. This card costs 0 bits and when used, gives the target 1 bit and 3 turns of swiftness. However, the target is also inflicted with a 3-turn minus 35% attack modifier and a 3-turn minus 20% defense modifier. It's not the best bit gain after you get your hands on, well, literally anything later in player progression, but it doesn't have to be when it's just there to be an early game bit gain. Outside of early game, I guess it could be useful for effect spam decks which aren't really using attack damage, provided you backline. Maybe it could be useful for Aeromancy because of its swiftness application, but Haste and Accelerata are right there, only time will tell. Overall, it's good for early game and debatably usable afterwards. As a reminder, you can get Hastening Concoction, as well as Enfeebling Concoction, Bewildering Concoction, Concussive Concoction, and Bolstering Concoction from the new Bandit Alchemist NPC and Den of Thieves for 1 Corrosive Concoction each. Second, Enfeebling Concoction. Previously a why does an early game enemy have a 1 AoE 65% defense buff card, it's been toned down to actually fit for an early game enemy, and in the process, now player obtainable. For 3 bits, you can deal 15 damage to all enemies in a 1 AoE. You'll also apply a 15% attack debuff, a 35% defense debuff, and a minus 10 attack modifier for 3 turns to all enemies in a 1 AoE. Enfeebling Concoction also has a minimum range of 2. It's admittedly a little expensive for a debuffing card, but makes up for it with its trifecta of debuffs, so I think it's alright. Give it a try and let me know what you think in the comments. Third, Bewildering Concoction, a new AoE confusion option for early game. For 3 bits, you can deal 15 damage to all enemies in a 1 AoE. You'll also apply 3 turns of Confusion and Fatigue to all enemies in a 1 AoE, on top of reshuffling 1 card back into their decks. Literally, who cares about a target reshuffle in PvE, am I right? Bewildering Concoction also has a minimum range of 2. The only solid Confusion card in Cambris before this weekly patch was Core Infliction, with Smokescreen being good, but not great due to its teamed kill targeting. Now, there's a proper budget option for Core Infliction in play, making it a little bit easier to get your hands on a reliable disruption card during early game. Outside of early game, just use Core Infliction, unless you have a deck that can put Bewildering Concoction's fatigue application to good use, such as one with Frostbite in it. Fourth, Concussive Concoction. Arguably the most changed card of the bunch of potions that are now player obtainable. For 3 bits, you can deal 30 damage and then apply 1 turn of sleep to the center tile of the selected radius. Enemies adjacent to the center tiles instead take 15 damage and are inflicted with 2 turns of fatigue. Concussive Concoction also has a minimum range of 2. Call me the center target of Concussive Concoction because I think this card is a real snooze fest. It feels like a pre-rework Inferno Blast, since it's an AoE card where you really don't want to use it as an AoE card because of how it forces you to get a target in the center tile, or else you're missing out on that sleep application. Plus, if you want proper fatigue application, we literally just went over a better option in the form of Bewildering Concoction's 3-turn fatigue in its entire radius. Since every other sleep card in the game has a duration of 2 at minimum, its duration of 1 doesn't really make sense. Sleep that's 1 duration is more or less just stun because there's no real risk in an enemy waking up until their turn outside of turn order, which is typically outside of the player's control, and is why sleep has been given out at durations of 2 or more. It's a single target sleep, so I don't think it would be a huge change, and would just keep the card consistent with everything else sleep related if anything. For now, I wouldn't use this if you have a more established option. Next up, Bolstering Concoction, a new support card in players' hands. For 3 bits, you can heal all allies within a 1 AoE radius of the selected tile for 15 health, and then apply a 15% attack modifier for 4 turns, a 15% defense modifier for 4 turns, a 20% attack buff, and a 20% defense buff to all allies within a 1 AoE radius. Basically, think of King's Governance, except you can get the buffs from it too. I think it's a great support card due to its flexibility. If you have some allies around max health and some allies at low health, you can get the best of both worlds, buffing your high health allies and healing your low health allies, on top of buffing them too. Only time will tell if it manages to stay as a good support card, but I think it'll stay relevant. Potion Satchel is a card that screams deck compression because, well, it's exactly that. For 1 bit, you can shuffle 2 random potion cards, anything on the screen right now, into your hand. While it's not quick play, you're getting some solid filler cards, so I find it fair. Although I thought I'd once again mention that the potion cards you get are random, so it's more of a novelty card. However, it's a fun novelty card, so I think it's a good addition. If you really want deck compression, then Potion Satchel is the card for you. You can get Potion Satchel from Bandit Alchemists in Den of Thieves as a 26% drop. There's this battle with 2 Bandit Alchemists right here that I recommend you farm to get a full set of Potion Satchels, since you'll get 2 chances to get it per fight. Saving the best for last, Deep in Thought, a brand new tutor card option. Costing only 1 bit, you can shuffle your entire hand back into your deck, and then choose 3 cards to put into your hand. However, you can't choose legendary cards. This card is also quick play, meaning using it won't end your turn. I've seen people compare this to Conjure, and I've seen people compare this to Demon Lore. However, I actually don't think it's a side grade to either of them. For a tutor card, I think it sorta just does its own thing. It's a reset button, letting you change an unfavorable hand into something better, giving you aren't running this deck. 3 cards leaves you with a pretty small hand afterwards, however, meaning you seriously have to make your choice of 3 worth it to justify running this card. I think it was a great addition. Well done. You can get Deep in Thought from Markle Chant and Ulrich Extern 1 for 300 gold each. And that wraps up the weekly patch analysis. Between the early game rebalancing, fun shakeups to PvP, and a massive batch of new cards, this patch definitely lived up to expectations. It's not often we get a patch that gives some attention to the new player experience, a section of the game which the community has generally seen as having major shortcomings, and I think it was a really good decision to address it now. If this is the kind of momentum we're seeing from weekly patches, then Hexaria's event gauntlet of Capac and Snowville Shores to end out the year could be something truly special. However, that's later and this is now. Let me know which of the 7 new cards you like the most in the comments. See ya.